Our bodies come in different shapes and sizes, so doesn't it make sense that our weight loss plan should too? Noom builds a personal plan that factors in dietary restrictions, medical issues, and other personal needs so your plan works for you. One of the things I love about Noom is that it doesn't feel restrictive. Instead of focusing on what you can't eat, it helps you develop a healthier relationship with food. You can still enjoy your favorite treats in moderation, which makes it a sustainable approach that I can actually stick to. If you're looking for a personalized weight loss program that actually works, I highly recommend giving Noom a try. It's a program that's helped me achieve my goals and feel better than ever. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com. That's Noom.com. Go check out Noom today.
There's no better feeling than a personal win, and the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you do just that. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
All right, so we're back with Cindy Bertrand Flores, and Cindy's still not with us. She's been working a lot, so she's going to be off channel here for a little while. We'll hopefully have her back maybe next week. We can kind of sneak her in, but she's out on location shooting something, so she can't be with us. But we're back with Cindy Bertrand Flores, and today Cindy and I are going to talk about the origin story of good and evil when it comes to deadly roots. And we're going to kind of go back before the Mayflower to see, because a lot of the things that we've talked about before is, they were leaving Europe because they were getting persecuted religiously, and they wanted to start, a lot of them right after the Catholic Church kind of split up, and there was a lot of things going on. And so they didn't feel comfortable staying there. And so they wanted to go to the New World and start their own, worship and who they wanted to worship with. But there is some good and evil stories prior to that. And I was talking to Cindy yesterday when we were talking about what we were going to talk about today. And she kind of really kind of blew my mind when she really kind of went back before the Mayflowers, going back way back. So Cindy, why don't you kind of give us kind of a little intro of what we're going to talk about, and how what you believe that the religious component that we've all been taught for years and years and years, from the Bible, from the Dead Sea Scrolls to all these other things, and how they kind of really formed what the Mayflowers were thinking, and then the good and evil from that, and then how that translated to today in all these serial killers. So give us a little intro.
Okay, so by doing this serial killer family tree and noticing a very distinct pattern to the killer's trees, so we already know we have the 5 markers, which all of the do-it-yourself heavy-duty guys, all the killers that have Mayflower descent, have those 5 markers. So what do they have? They've got, it's either going to be German or Scandinavian. So in that, I'm including Denmark, Switzerland, or Norway, like Sweden, Finland. So those, and so if they don't, some have both. Some have that plus German. And I was looking at also, I have killers that don't have roots. And I was like, well, how would they tie in? And this culmination ties all of the killers together. And it really boils down to the battle of good versus evil, and basically the answers of the universe. And the answer is already in the Bible. Not that you really think about it, but so that was one of the markers. You got that German or Scandinavian. They have the recent Europe. They have a recent immigrant ancestor. So most of the time it's German. There's a heavy amount of German. And I was like, why do all these killers have so much German in them?
Yeah, that's interesting.
German people, it's just peculiar that I don't see that when I do other people's trees. Not so much, not like this. They have either New York or New Jersey, so that section.
Oh, wow.
And then
I have both of those. I have German, and then I
you have
was born in New York, raised in New Jersey.
yeah, so that's a component. They all seem to have this connection, which they shouldn't. These are the northern ones have this. Then this other ones is a little bit different, but does also tie in. And then we have our Massachusetts. Since we have that Mayflower component, those are going to be your Puritans and your Quakers. Now, I looked at what caught my attention and what really brought this all home was I believe it was, I can't remember if it was Herb Baumeister or
Who?
Herb Baumeister.
Baumeister.
Is that his name? Okay.
I don't know.
Or it was serial killer. Either it was him or Tim Burkhart. Can't remember which one of those. I caught not Methodist, pardon me, Mennonite in the tree. I said, somebody else has something similar in their tree, and that would be Eileen Warnell. She has Amish.
Oh.
I said, well, that's peculiar. Remembering some things really jump out at you, and that was just something odd to see in a killer tree because we have this specific pattern. Now, Eileen Warnos and Herb Baumeister or whatever, even Tim Burkhart, don't have Mayflower ties. But they have that weird thing. So, that's interesting.
Well, I mean, I actually know quite a bit about the Amish and Mennonites because I actually went to school in Pennsylvania Dutch area. I went to Kutztown University, and there was, there was heavy Amish Mennonite population there. Every morning on a Sunday, you would hear the clop, 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 clop of the horse and carriage. Very restrictive religion. Obviously, the Amish I believe, is a little bit more restrictive than the Mennonites.
Yeah.
And so it's an unusual, restrictive kind of religion, repressive. I mean, they don't, I think the Amish don't I think they do have a phone, but they just like electricity or, they grow their own. Yeah. I mean, they don't drive cars.
Right.
There's
a lot of Pennsylvania. These killers have a lot of Pennsylvania ancestors running through Pennsylvania, a lot. And then Germany before that war. Yeah,
I felt a lot, when I first went out there, out in the Amish country, I mean, they don't interact with people. I would run into like the teenage girls riding their they're riding their bicycles, but they're wearing these old clothes that I guess they make their own clothes and everything like that. But I felt a lot of dark energy there, in that area,
Right. And now if you look at, what were the Puritans? A very restrictive form. It leads back to the Protestant Reformation. Who started that initially? Who really kicked it off? Who was the catalyst? It was Martin Luther.
Yep.
So that's why I say all roads lead to Martin Luther. Okay. And I looked at everybody. I was looking, and I don't usually look at people's religions. Nothing. If people are free to, practice, believe whatever they want. That's on them. That's up to them. Everybody can do what they want. I'm just saying that this is what I've noticed myself, and it absolutely makes sense. So I said, so now Martin Luther is the catalyst for, and I got a whole ass list of it. Give me 1 second. So he creates Lutheranism. He was a monk for the Catholic Church, and then something like that, and then he left. I was like, that's peculiar, and he spawned an entire movement. He has the Bible translated into German, the Lutheran Bible. And one of my followers sent me a copy of their old Lutheran Bible that has his picture in it. I said, oh, that don't be it all, does it? You're going to put your face, or people are going to put it in there, on a Bible. That's not your words. Those are the words of God, and so basically you've made yourself a God by doing that. Anyway, and you're naming a whole religion after yourself. I think he said that he didn't want it named after him. He would later go on to write the Nazi playbook. He wrote a book called The
95 Theses.
The Jews and Their Lies, which is
that what it is? Was it the 95 Theses? Is that what you're calling the Nazi playbook?
Yeah, that I believe the book is called The Jews and Their Lies, and that's based on that 95 Theses. Okay. So he writes that 4 years before he dies, I believe. So he spawned this religion. I've heard from people that there's also so there's that book, the German Bible, German. Hello. Remember,
so let's back up here. I just want to make sure we're right because I'm kind of looking this stuff up here while we're talking. So there were sections in the 95 Theses, which was that the Nazis used to extract their Okay, because initially, you know, it was a lot of it was about the indulgences. You know, people paying their way to get to Catholics, where he didn't like the fact that Catholics can just pay their way to get to heaven.
Right, right.
So,
And what my theory at the end of it is that he was, as with the other people who spawned off religions that start with Martin and go on, and I'll get into those, was that he was we'll go back, we're gonna have to keep going back.
okay.
Basically, I don't know, what do you call it? Opposition, controlled opposition, but like created by the Catholic Church, as I believe that they created Islam. So if we go further back, we'll get to that. I will have to back up. Now, Martin Luther, so he's the catalyst, and it starts with Lutheranism,
Mm-hmm.
and then we get Calvinism, which were the Puritans, the Quakers, and the Huguenots. I do have some serial killers that have French ties who would have Huguenot ancestors. That's just the French version of Calvinists.
Got it.
Now, and it spawns off Anglicanism, so the Church of England, which is still very Catholic. Now, Lutheranism, they just don't have a pope. So basically, Catholic still, no pope. Lutheranism, Anglicanism.
Well, Catholicism with heavy anti-Semitism.
Okay, is that what I don't know?
Well, that's
I don't know.
this is what I'm reading about. I mean, just want to make sure we get this right, so we don't, you know, because when we talk about religion, people get, you know, they're very, you know, I mean, I was raised Roman Catholic, but yeah, it said there was a later work that he wrote, so it wasn't initially the 95 Theses, but it was some later works he wrote that were heavily criticizing the Jews and stuff like
so
that.
the Jews and the lies,
Anti-Judaistic, Jew views, calling the expulsion of Jews and burning of synagogues. Wow, that's pretty.
Like it's the Nazi playbook. It is literally what they ended up doing. Now, that's not what God's word said. He didn't say go kill the Jews. He didn't say that.
No.
We'll get into that. Continuing on, we have Anabaptists. So the Protestant, the first Protestant Reformation spawns off Anabaptists, which you get your Amish and Mennonites.
Mm-hmm.
Anti-Trinitarianism, Latter-day Saints, Jehovah's Witnesses. It spawns off Nazism. Well, thanks to basically Martin Luther. Methodist comes up a lot. Methodist is spawned from the Church of Switzerland. Switzerland is something that some of these killers have. I remember I said, so we have either, and the areas that we get, so we have Germany, right? Which is Lutheranism, primarily. The primary religion in Germany is Lutheranism. Denmark and Switzerland, we get Methodist and Lutheranism, same thing. Norway comes up, and so, like I said, remember there's two groups. It's either German or these types, I call them Scandinavian countries, including Denmark and Switzerland, but it's the same religion that's coming out of these. So all these killers have this pattern, including the ones that have short-lived roots. Bell Guinness was from Norway. Norway has actually a high amount of witchcraft, but also Methodist. I believe it was Methodist. So
here, I want to stop you a second. So some of these countries you're talking about, like Germany, Norway, what were the other one? What was the other one?
Switzerland and Denmark.
Switzerland, exactly. Traditionally, I mean, when we think of their types of personalities, we think of very stoic person, very kind of non-emotional,
cold, yes.
Cold, I guess cold, maybe not empathetic, and just kind of like like the Germans is always just like they're very religious on doing, like progressing. It's all about do. They're highly efficient people. They're almost like automatons. I mean, they're not that big of a country, but they hold a huge GDP for the world because they're so efficient. And I think that stoicism, does that relate to maybe, and as well as the religious part, the personality, when you're not years and years and hundreds of years of kind of maintaining that thing, kind of builds you into something.
Right, like a robot.
Non-feeling. So if you were going to commit something horrific like a murder or a crime, I mean, we know during World War II that they gave there's a new book out talking about, it was called Blitzed, and it was talking about how all the amphetamines and the drugs that the Third Reich gave to all their soldiers, they were on speed the whole time.
Oh,
The whole
wow.
time. I mean, talk about being like, including, obviously Hitler was on all sorts of drugs as well, they found out.
Mhm.
But just giving that they had to take it every day. They took their speed, and then, so it's.
Well, and that's another thing. So now you've got, and we'll get into the demons in the bloodline and how they got there. When you're on drugs and you've altered your state, you've weakened your state, demons can jump in. No problem. And then they can possess you for a time to have you do things that a normal human would never do, could never do, because it's not in us to do. But the demons can do it, and the demons want to punish humans really badly. So there's that. So that's actually a very interesting point. Also, remembering that a lot of these serial killers were dabbling in witchcraft and practicing Satanism. So there's already demons there that needed activation. The demon realm. So our battle is against power and principalities. Those can be your demons, the dark side, the demonic spirits. But they have legal rights. There's a law in the ether, in the spiritual realm. So if they could get you to agree by doing all these sinful things because they talked in your ear and you did it, you came into agreement with the demons, they have legal right to enter you or to possess or to latch on to you because you're committing these atrocities.
Yeah.
Making them make you do it more. And at some point you're not even, it's not even you doing it. So these serial killers were absolutely possessed by demons, and they had multiple. There's the one story in the Bible where the guy was possessed by 5,000 demons. I believe that was the one when Jesus said, "Come out of him," and he sent the demons into the pigs and sent them off the edge over the cliff. But so that was just the first Martin Luther, the first, what do you call it? I don't know why my brain stopped working. Religious movement.
The Protestant Reformation.
The Reformation. Okay, that was
The
the first one.
Reformation.
The second one spawns off. Sorry, that's when the anti-Trinitarianism, the Latter-day Saints, the Jehovah Witness, the Nazism, and those ones. You get Mormonism. Joseph Smith is a Fuller. He was also a Freemason.
Wow.
And
well, it's interesting. I'm talking to you from Salt Lake City right now.
Oh shit!
How weird is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I found that interesting. Now, there was a guy named Pierce. What was his name? His name was Derek Prince, who was a pastor of some sort. Anyway, who had done a sermon once, and he said this, and I agree because I did a killer tree and I agree with it. That if you descend from Freemasons, and there's two other things, because when they get to the upper levels, the 33rd degree, they've officially sold their soul to Satan. They're practicing Satan worship. That they have made a covenant with the devil, and the demons do not, even if you die, the demons aren't letting go. You're not breaking that contract with the devil, giving the demons a legal right to travel in the bloodline. And that's some sins of the father stuff. The sins of the father are visited upon the generations for 3 to 4 generations. And so now, while you're not going to be punished for your ancestors' sins, demons have a legal right to be there. If that curse is not broken, you haven't accepted Jesus in your heart, then the demons can perpetuate, and it's a vicious circle until it ends up in somebody who's willing to commit these acts. I want you to know something. Cindy Schaefer, who was brutalized,
yes,
she had Mennonite ancestors.
So Cindy Schaefer, the victim of the Toolbox Killer.
Yeah, she's got a Mennonite ancestor. So she basically, like one generation, like she has almost got she has recent Europe, but it's like one generation past where it would be with all the other killers. I like to see the first 4 or 5 generations. But she has a ton of German. So basically, if she hadn't been, what I believe happened to her is that her family broke the curse. They accepted Jesus. I guarantee you did talk to them. I bet you that's the
Mm-hmm.
case. Somewhere in the line, they that was it. They accepted Jesus and they broke that off of themselves. And the demons were pissed. I think that's what attracted the toolbox killers to her, because the demons wanted revenge. It
Yeah.
was her family line, and that I think is why she was so brutalized. But
Yeah.
she has that on. She's got the Mayflower. I believe she's on the Fuller line. I don't know if she's on Fuller. I don't have room for her name on Fuller. She might. I don't know. But she's got that
Well,
Mayflower.
I know she's related to Laura Brand,
Right.
and I think wasn't he related to Roy Norris? Wasn't she
Yeah.
related?
She has. I think she has a couple Mayflower.
Yeah, but getting back to the Freemasons,
Mhm.
because even the Catholic Church wasn't a big fan of the Freemasons, nor
Mhm.
was the Islam,
Right.
and pretty much no one really liked them. So
Well,
are they considered? I'm trying to figure out the ritual, and it's such a.
so that's what it says, but it's not true. So the Freemasons as an order, they're all under one big umbrella.
Yeah.
If the Catholic Church, which they did, in my opinion, created Islam, something to do with Muhammad marrying a nun, or his sister-in-law was a nun, something like that, who influenced him to create this. And he was visited by an angel. Well, angels aren't always God's angels. It can be Satan's angels too, right? Satan disguised himself as an angel of light. Joseph Smith was visited by an angel. Doesn't mean it was an angel from God.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't. Um, Let me back up 1 second. Lutheranism and Anglicanism. So here's their Bible, right? Word of God's supposed to be. I don't know what it says because it's translated. But they also have you know what the Catholics have? Like an extra book. What do you call it? Like, I'm not Catholic. I don't know.
Well, there's the Old Testament and the New Testament.
No, they have an extra little booklet. Catechism?
Well, yeah, catechism. Well, catechism is basically the study of Catholicism, and it's basically like Sunday school. Like I used to go to catechism classes. We used to call it Sunday school, but it's basically
Anglicanism and Lutheranism have that.
yeah.
Okay, so that's adding to. Anyway, I just want to say that. Okay, we're back to.
And I just want to make a quick disclaimer here. It says I am not a religious scholar. I am a Roman Catholic.
Right.
So if we do getting some of these things wrong, I mean, we're just talking in discussion purposes. So please do not get upset with us. We're exploring good and evil, because which is the nexus of the serial killers that we're kind of looking under. So just full disclaimer.
Right. So so then the Catholics create Islam as a counter, because the Catholics were in Italy and covering that area, but the original Christians were occupying the area that is now occupied by Islam. And so the Catholics would have created them as opposed opposition, I think if that's what you call it, to push out the Christians, the Gentiles, and cause the whole war and stuff over there. And then you get, if the Catholics then also influenced, because Martin Luther was a monk, and again, similar to Islam, now the Protestant Reformation. Now God uses evil people to do good things. So we have Martin Luther, but there's another guy, Loyola. Where's your name, Loyola? And I'll get to something in a second. Let me see. Ignatius of Loyola, who created Anglicanism, and he was a former priest. So Anglicanism is the Church of England.
Yes.
And so it is believed that he was a Jesuit. And so again, under the header of Freemasonry. Now I'm not talking the Masonic, it's part of it, but the Masonic movement, or what it currently is today, didn't start until the 1700s or something in England.
Yeah.
This is much older than that. This is all the way back to Babylon. And it goes back to the Khazars, which then control the Roman Empire. But a lot of this goes back to the Temple of Solomon. That's where your Freemasonry becomes Freemasonry. So when I say, like, I believe Martin Luther was a member of the the Freemasons. It's not what's known today as Masonry. It's this order, this under the
Yeah,
umbrella.
there's been a lot of powerful people. If you look at a lot of, in fact, someone invited me to join the Freemasons at one point, and I was like, and I was asking him, and I go, "What do you really need to do?" He goes, "Well, you have to be, first of all, you have to be referred and sponsored by two people, and then the other one is he goes, you have to believe in God." That's what they told me, and then he goes, and that's pretty much it. And I'm like, oh no, and to me, I was like, well, what benefits do you? Because, well, with the Freemason, there's like a directory of all the Freemasons that you get from all over the world. So, and he told me, he says, what's great about it is like, if you like, you're from New Jersey and say you're like visiting Oklahoma and you're there and you need help with something, you can go to that guide, find a Freemason, a member there, and they have to help you. So it's like a big networking thing as well. He says, great. And I'm like going, well, that sounds kind of interesting. He almost got me to join, but then I'm like going, and then I've been inside some of these Masonic temples because they rent them out a lot of times, because they have a lot of space and they're like, they're only used for certain events. And so, but their spaces are really friggin' creepy and they have very heavy energy. I mean, they're ornate and I'm like that. You go into like an old church and, you don't feel that heaviness. You don't feel the heaviness. Everything's old and like craft and like never feel a heaviness in a church. I've been to tons of churches all over Europe and, and everything's kind of, and in Europe, all the church, everything goes up to the sky, and these Masonic temples, though, the ceiling's flat. It seems very, and it's like an arena. And it's all this red velvet seats, and they have this throne for the guy and so it was I always felt very uncomfortable in those places.
The thing with them, everything is secret. Everything they do is in secret. The things they don't tell you. Yes, if you lose your passport and you're in another country, just go to a lodge and they'll get you back in your country. They have that kind of power. Almost all the presidents were Freemasons. There's a whole lot more to it. A lot of Satan worship. The 33rd degree, you find out what it is. Now, Freemasonry is part of Islam. If you look at the Shriners hats that they wear, and that's the 32nd degree, it's the same as Islam's hats. You look at the symbolism in both of them. Remember what I said? So it's this giant circle, one giant umbrella. We have the Catholic Church, we have the Freemasons, we have Islam. Going all the way back, we're now at the second temple built in Jerusalem. At that point, that's when the Khazars start to infiltrate the Jews. The what do you call them? Who killed Jesus? The priests. There was something Pharisees and Sadducees.
Pontius
At
Pilate.
that point,
Was it Pontius Pilate? Yeah, I can't remember. Pontius Pilate.
No, there's the Pharisees and the Sadducees. So now at the building of the second temple, they're making their strategic move, the Khazars. Now the Khazars, let's take it all the way back to Babylon and Nimrod and the whole building of the Tower of Babel. At that point, God comes down, he gets pissed off, he changes the language and scatters the people. They were the first Satan worshippers. It starts at the Tower of Babel. The Khazars were, let's see, they were Turkish nomadic people. They ended up in Russia. They were sacrificing babies to Baal, eating babies, doing all sorts of nasty shit. And then they were kicked out of Russia. Then they go, and so they're from south of the Black Sea. They end up they got kicked out of Russia. They go to the Ukraine. Then they start infiltrating the Ashkenazi Jews at a later point. But before all of that, they were already infiltrating. Now, Jesus says, and it says in the Bible, when how did it work? Okay. The Pharisees and the Sadducees told the guys who were standing at the circle, that gets pushed away and Jesus leaves. They told them to lie and tell the people they saw Jesus's people take them away. This is the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They were serving Satan. They were following, and they were turning the temple into a temple of thieves. It was all about money and exchanging. Who controls the money? The Khazars. They still control the money.
The Khazars is the part of Judaism?
Khazars, they're Satan worshippers, and they practice, well, it's money, Kabbalah. So they bring Kabbalah to India. So they've already infiltrated the Medes. I have a chart. I know which son of Japheth roughly that they descend
Yeah.
from.
I'm getting a little confused here with all this different like that. You're gonna have to slow down.
All right.
That's all right. I mean, listen, it's amazing you have all this information in your head. You know, when I was talking about Pontius Pilate, he was the Roman governor who oversaw the trial of Jesus.
Right.
So,
and well, Jesus told me, you do what you got to do, and Jesus knew what he came for.
yeah.
But so the Khazars are the first practitioners of witchcraft, sacrificing babies to Baal, to Satan. And now let's fast forward. They're at the Second Temple building, and they're infiltrating the Pharisees and the Sadducees. The Second Temple is built, I don't remember, 500 years before Jesus. I don't recall the number. Could be 1,000. Don't recall. I'd have to look.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, and it's written. It's always been in the Bible that these things were going to happen, and it didn't say that God was going to do it.
Well, here, before we go further, I just want to kind of read a definition of the Khazars because you kind of glossed over it. I just found it because they says they were the nomadic Turkic people that in the late 6th century established a major commercial empire covering the southeastern section of modern Europe, Russia, southern Ukraine, Crimea, Kazakhstan. They created what is for the duration the most powerful polity to emerge from breakup of the Western Turkic. I can't even pronounce it. I can't even sound that way. Astride a major artery of commerce between Eastern Europe, Southwestern Asia, Khazaria became one of the most foremost trading empires of the early medieval world, commanding the western marches of the Silk Road. So there you go. I mean, you're right. They controlled all the.
They control the money. They're the money people, and so now they've infiltrated the actual Jews, the 12 tribes of Israel. Later, they've taken over. They got kicked out of Russia. So they've gone to Ukraine. They've gone to Crimea. They've made their way into and started to infiltrate the Ashkenazi Jews, bringing with them. So the Ashkenazi Jews were practicing.
Well, let me back up for a little bit. Let me back it. So what was the purpose of them, like Satan worshiping? Why were they drawn to Satan?
God wiped out the earth before, like with the flood, because they were all worshiping Satan. So he said, forget, he wipes it out. He saves Noah, his wife, and his children. Now they're starting again, and it's I think Nimrod did this when he was about 300 and something years old. That's the Tower of Babel where he builds it, because I figure there's about 300,000 people. I calculated it roughly for the amount of generations between him and the Tower of Babel being built.
Mm-hmm.
They, again, just like how Satan tempted Eve with the apple, Satan and his little minions are talking in the ear and like, oh, you can get power. You can be more powerful than God. Satan wants people. God said, number one rule, have no other gods before me. There are lots of gods, lowercase g's, but God said, put him first. Now you got these people who are like trying to make themselves gods, or they start worshiping other lowercase g gods. And Satan just wants to collect, like, destroy God's creation. Satan absolutely hates humans, as do the demons. And demons are the fallen angels. Anyway, so that's his goal. He wants to destroy humans. The demons, there's a whole thing with Nephilim. Those were the giants created by the fallen angels, having sex with human women who created giants. Their soul can't go anywhere when they died, so they want to inhabit humans, possess humans, to feel and see and touch, and they make humans do absolutely disgusting things. We're not going to get into that.
Yeah.
So people are serving Satan so that they can get what they like. They don't want to serve God. They want to do what makes them feel good. They want to have copious amounts of sex. They want to do all sorts of nasty things. Okay, and they believe that Satan's their master, but it's not. And God doesn't like that. And that's what Satan wants. He wants people to serve him. He don't care about humans though. And then so these people are selling their soul to Satan, and God's like, Are you serious? Like,
Well, I
I
mean,
can
God
make
gives free will. God gives free will, so it gives it the choice to do that.
and that's
And
and that's why.
and what it sounds like, I mean, based upon what you were just saying there, is that a lot of the whatchamacallit, the wealth and the people that were the gatekeepers were the ones that were worshiping the devil.
Right, and that's the
And that
thing.
and that sounds very similar to what's going on today, because you have, all these things. I mean, you have the Bohemian Grove whole thing. You have this new world order. I mean, all these people, and even down to what's going on with Sean P. Diddy Combs right now. That group. I mean, they say Beyonce was, a satanic worshiper. They have all these
100%.
hand signals we see that people post. I
That's
don't know
the
if any of this is
Masonic.
true, but
That's
it's a consistent theme that comes out from
the one
some of
eye.
the, exactly,
Yeah,
and
it's all true, and they're the elite. They're the ones with the money.
exactly.
They're the ones who sold their soul to Satan. They had to, in order to get what they got, they would never give them a platform if they were not willing to do Satan's bidding or the Masonic order's bidding. Remember how they have to, if you go talk to your Masonic brethren in another state, they have to help you.
Hmm.
In that order, you have to do what they tell you to do or ask you to do. So if they want you to kill somebody, you have to do it. That's the dirty little secret of the Masonic order. And then they don't find out until the 33rd degree that they've been worshiping Satan this whole time. Aleister Crowley was a Freemason. Uh, that's also part of that. The second movement spawns off the second Protestant movement spawns off Satanism, Mormonism, Nazism. All of these things spawn from the second movement. It's a timing thing.
Yeah. Let's get. Hold
So
on, let me stop you real quick so you can take a breath here. the Well, I want to go back a little bit about the regional areas, like when you're talking about the Germany, the Netherlands, Normandy, all that kind of Norway. And what countries don't kind of subscribe to that? Because I don't feel like. I mean, how about like a country like Italy? Did they come? Is there a lot of serial
no,
killers coming out of Italy?
I've got like 5 or 6, maybe 7 with Italian roots, but they also have other sorts. So remembering that if all roads lead to Martin, and Martin Luther was an offshoot of the Catholic Church, like surprisingly, you'd think Catholic would be the theme of this.
Mm.
It's not. It's still
Yeah,
part of the pattern.
it's the
It
split off
does
when it's
stem
split off.
from it does stem from the Protestant Reformation. But if all roads lead to Rome, if it was Rome itself that fabricated and created and forced Martin Luther, we're also the Rosicrucians and the Jesuits. The Rosicrucian symbol, the rose, is Martin Luther's. Martin Luther came before the Rosicrucians, but the Rosicrucian symbol, they used Martin Luther's rose. The Rosicrucians were German.
Got it.
Basically, says to me, Martin Luther was the original Rosicrucian, even though it hadn't been formed yet,
Yeah.
right? And then that Loyola guy being a Jesuit, and also believed John Calvin, also believed to be a Jesuit. And again, those are under the umbrella of Freemason, the Masonic order, all of that. It's under one umbrella. So that's the similarity. It all, you can ball it up, and then let's go back to Rome, where the Catholic Church is the ones who are creating these things, these controlled oppositions. The the evils, the Khazars, are the ones funding both sides of every war. They fund the whole thing. It's to create division, distraction.
Yeah.
Now we talk about these churches, these religions. I couldn't find it today. I looked. There's a part in the Bible where it says God will allow basically the formation of these churches. The church is the body of Christ. The actual church is the body of
Exactly.
Christ, not a building. But then you look at the money that these churches are making and the ones that are heading them up. Let's look at Mormonism. I don't even want to talk about how much money Mormonism makes.
Oh no. I mean, I'm telling you, it's nothing but banks on every corner here.
And who controls all the money? The Khazars.
Yeah.
So the Khazars take us back to Babylon. It all ties together. Did you know that Dennis Rader was the president of his church council? It was a
Yep.
Lutheran church.
Yep.
It was Lutheran.
That's actually how he got caught, because he was using the church computer for all his files, and he that's how he actually he sent in a floppy disk to the and he even asked the cop, as smart as this guy is, he goes, well, you won't be able to get anything off this, right? And he goes, oh no, we're not. And it was like an old floppy disk, and I talked to the detective who actually received it, and he was just like, what a dope, he just gave us all of everything. And that's how they caught him.
Oh wow.
But yeah, he was operating out of his Catholic church office. I mean his church office, not his Catholic church.
And Aleister Crowley, this is the creator of I don't know if he's the creator of the Satan Church, Church of Satan, but he was a member, or his family was, the Plymouth Brethren, which is Anglicanism. The Plymouth Brethren actually comes up for another serial killer too, one that has multiple Mayflower ancestors. L. Ron Hubbard was raised Methodist. So there is a very specific, distinct theme here. Lizzie Borden. She's a direct ancestor of Martin Luther's brother.
Wow.
So Martin Luther's her uncle, great uncle.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a tie here. Let me see what else I got.
That's okay. While you're thinking about that, when we're talking about the origin evil, we go all the way back to Adam and Eve, and the biting the apple. You know what I found interesting, and I read an article about, is the computer I'm working off of. What's the symbol?
And with a bite out of it, I'm aware. So it doesn't say it's an apple; it's a fruit. It was probably a fig, but the story, the origin story, the way it's depicted is that Satan made her eat an apple. She took a bite out of it. That's exactly why the symbol for Mac, or whatever you call that
Mac,
thing,
yeah,
is the bite out of the apple, the original sin. And that guy was definitely a member of, and the Illuminati. That's all part of your umbrella of masonry. It's Satan.
Did you read that Dan Brown book, the first one? What was it called? It was about the Illuminati and the church and everything. Tom Hanks starred in the movie. I can't.
Yeah. Okay, so
I forget what it is. Hold on, let me just look it up real quick. When I read that book, it really, as a Catholic, it really kind of blew me away.
The Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci Code, yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's another guy that's just kind of on another high level.
And that's and trying to get into all of that, I actually was looking into famous painters to see if there was a pattern to their tree, because my son's been getting into artists, and there is, and all of them, the ones that I added to the tree, they have the New York, but they are of Dutch descent. Their connection is Dutch. That led me down a whole rabbit hole of Van Gogh did not kill himself. It was part of the Masons. They wanted his artwork. I'm telling you, I've done his tree. I know.
Really? So you're saying that Masons killed him for his artwork?
Absolutely. Because 5 months after he died, his brother dies, and then the wife puts Van Gogh's art out there. Van Gogh I just got a book from Costco. It's this thick, showing all of his artwork.
Well, I actually went to Cindy and I went to the Van Gogh Museum. We were in Amsterdam, and we were there. And what's really interesting about his artwork is they have all his artwork there, from when he first started his sketches all the way to the flowers and all the other stuff. And what you find when you look at it and you compare it all, as he gets older and as his artwork progresses, and as he starts going insane, his artwork gets more like beautiful and more innovative. And you look at his earlier works, it's very pedestrian, but you can actually see his mind deteriorating in his artwork, because he was obviously going crazy. He was drinking the water where he was using the paint and stuff like that. And so that was making him crazy. And the fact that, he was poor, and his brother, it was really interesting to see the parallel and just see
he wrote a letter to a girl, she's just a friend of his, encouraging her to come and see him. This is a month before his ear was cut off.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't cut his ear off, I assure you. Someone cut it off, a member of the Brotherhood, because he was saying he despises unions, Freemason, the idea of Freemasonry, creating a union. They wanted to make it a union for art. By the way, I also looked into how many famous painters are Masons. And remember what I said, they won't let you get famous or give you a platform. All the artists were Freemasons, like all the big ones,
Yeah.
all Freemasons.
Really?
And they can hide their symbolism in the paintings, like Da Vinci's. You were just talking about that.
Well, talking about a painting that really reeks evil, I've always was fascinated with this, and is the Hieronymus Bosch painting "Garden of Earthly Delights." Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if you want to look at something that's really kind of illustrating evil, and I mean that painting. If anybody hasn't seen it, look it up. It's one of the most horrific, kind of twisted paintings you've ever seen.
But what you got to understand is that these evil people put themselves at the top. They're the only ones, the movie industry, the tops, okay, the ones that are making bazillions of dollars, like
Exactly.
the presidents, the elites, all the creators of all of these organizations, NASA, blah blah blah.
Or like
Look,
BlackRock and Vanguard, and
that's exactly it. Who controls the money? The Khazars. That's all part of the umbrella. They're all members of the brotherhood. They're all together. They control the narrative. Which is why it's don't stock up on earthly delights. Don't worry about chasing fortune and fame. Right? So anyway, long story short, my point is that all these serial killers are now raised in houses for centuries, for you know what I mean, who have had ancestors that were clearly at the top of these organizations. The ones who are creating these, look at these mega churches. Get me started on mega churches.
Yeah.
Right? They're the ones who they got the money. They make a whole lot of money out of that. What are they doing? They're not encouraging you to read the Bible. So that's what I was saying about God says He's allowing these things to see if you know His word. Do you know what God's word says? Are you following the teachings of man? That's what it boils down to. So if you look at and a good example of that's going to be the Puritans, and the ones who are trying to string up witches. Are you following the teachings of God? You're trying to string these people up. You're taking, the vengeance of the Lord is not yours. It is, you're to spread the word. That's what our job is, to spread the gospel. People have free will. God gave it to them. He didn't say, go and kill those people for practicing witchcraft. You know what I mean? Anyway.
So do you believe that all of that horrible DNA that has been kind of just propagated from basically the dawn of time, that just keeps on getting nurtured and fulfilled, that as that DNA goes on and it gets passed on, sometimes it gets diluted, and then other times it's kind of skips a generation? So
what it is so once you've got an ancestor that sold their soul, I'm sure we all have plenty of ancestors that sold their soul or were members of the elites, the high ups, whatever time, right? The whole thing to the Mayflower. Anyway, they sold their soul. Now those demons have a legal right to travel in the bloodline, and you can have multiple demons in you, and it goes through your mother and it goes through you as you're in the womb. Jesus died on the cross for our sins. We need to accept His gift. And that's your choice. You want it or you don't want it.
Yeah.
Well, if you accept it, fantastic. You've asked Jesus to your heart, you're good. You're cleansed by His blood. If you don't, if you choose not to follow Him, if you're choosing not to follow God's word, which is why we're supposed to spread the word, then you're allowing demonic attack. You're allowing the demons to talk in your ear and convince you to commit vile acts, disgusting acts. And the more you're like, oh, maybe just a little bit, the more you do, the more demons come in. Then the more the demons can possess you.
Yeah.
So it boils down to the battle between good and evil.
Let me just stop you real quick, because we have obviously another podcast. We have someone, Laura Brand, who talks to serial killers every day, 3 times a day, and trying to figure out why they were motivated to be who they are. And she's been talking to these guys for 10 years. She breaks down their personality and their backgrounds, as far as whether or not they were abused as a kid, or whether some of them came from very wealthy backgrounds that had no abuse in their family, and they just They just decided to do that. So she's still, to this day, we really can't figure out exactly why these people turn into the people they do in mass killings.
Right.
But it's just,
Well, you can have a set of siblings where one kills and one doesn't.
exactly.
Because you still have to come into agreement with the demon. If you're willing to come into agreement with a demon, they got you. So your sibling wasn't willing to come into agreement with them.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're already there, they're already present, they have a legal right to be there. At that point, it's your choice. God gave us free will.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
and
crazy.
I believe that's why Cindy Schaefer was brutalized the way she was. I think it was a revenge thing, and the demons. I recognize the demons that were in her.
All right. So you believe that some of these victims of serial killers are paying their like a karmic price?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I think that's
a pretty big thing, yeah. I mean, because they're totally innocent. Most of these girls are totally innocent.
Exactly, but I believe that their family line had broken the curse. These demons are vile, disgusting.
Oh, so they broke the evil curse. So now the evil's taking them out.
That's my point. So they want to punish them for accepting Christ, for accepting Jesus into their lives,
or accepting the light, whatever kind of light that is, the good light, the light in the darkness. That's crazy. I mean, it's so hard to really kind of put your thumb on with these things, but I mean, some of the stuff you're saying makes a lot of sense, and it sounds crazy, but if you really, I think in today's world, I mean, we're just our heads are so diluted from religion. I mean, we've gotten so far away from religion in some respects, hoping that and I think that's a lot of reason why some of the problems we're having.
Well, that's the thing I was going to say about the creation of all these churches. The church is the body of Christ. The formation of these buildings that are run by top, you know what I mean? Who's creating these churches? It takes a lot of money to run these things, right?
Yeah.
You're talking mega churches and stuff like that. They got the money, they're controlling. They're not encouraging you to read the Bible. They're giving you sermons. So they're sharing information, but you don't know for yourself what the word God says. And that's where the problem lies. So you're just relying on what somebody's saying. You're not getting into the word yourself.
Yeah. And going back to what you're saying about these churches, like those other churches, I mean, the Catholic Church, I mean, I found it fascinating when I went to Europe and I studied art history in college. I didn't even know this being raised in a Catholic church, but like when you look from the sky at a Catholic church, it's in the form of a crucifix. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know that. I mean, but when you're inside the church, if you see the way it's laid out, if you kind of draw an outline, I mean, it's set up like a crucifix, which I thought was very interesting because they want God to see it from the sky. They want that's why they're very vertical. But if you go into these other kind of churches that are, these mega churches and stuff like that, they're just big, gigantic buildings. Mm-hmm. Some of them. I mean, you have like the Crystal Cathedral in California, which is like gigantic, which now I don't even know who houses that now.
Well, look at Billy Graham. He's a Freemason.
Yeah.
He was a Freemason.
Well, he started out in tents.
Well, and then went to megachurch. And then look at Joel Osteen. He's a Mason. And we look at...
There's a lot of very wealthy, powerful people. I mean, it seems like that.
They won't let you be in power. They won't give you a platform unless you're willing to do their bidding. And that's what it boils down to.
That's crazy. It's crazy. And it's so weird because you don't... For the longest time, I've never really kind of accepted what that is because you figure, oh, well, it can't be that. It can't be that. It just seems like a big conspiracy theory.
That's what it is. That's the devil wants to confuse you. He wants, oh, no big deal. Bite the apple.
Exactly. I mean, it's all like everything else, like in humanity. It's like a big misinformation campaign.
There's a girl who's come out recently about Diddy, a black girl, who said she was a child. She was a party favor put on tables for these elites, and that they would have sex with these children or whatever on top of severed body parts, dead animals, bestiality was going on, and that should make you realize what was going on in Sodom and Gomorrah, why God struck them all down and let Lot and his wife and his children leave, and then the wife turned to salt. That's the demons, that's demonic possession. What they're doing is nothing that a human will do. The Bible says don't consume the lifeblood. and these people are drinking adrenochrome.
Adrenochrome. There, that came up again.
Blood, right? And they're like vampires. They feed on the blood, the fear. Young boys, especially. Then there's a whole lot to it, and that's why the priests in the Catholic Church like little boys. Something to do with the head of the penis, the one eye, the all-seeing eye, the one eye, the Illuminati. It all has something to do with. They believe that they get more power from Satan. It's something to do, but they feed on the fear of intelligent young boys, especially, which is why there's a lot of anal sex. There's a lot of what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
It's not about being gay. It's about defiling the human body. The demons want to punish the humans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was part of the admission into Diddy's parties. Apparently, it was a lot of that stuff going on there, and then the blackmailing. I mean, it's just crazy. And and also Bohemian Grove. There's a lot of that going on in Bohemian Grove too. You have to. There's a lot of people who are not gay are having these random acts of sex with other men just because it's a power thing. It's like
they eat babies. They sacrifice babies. There was a Satan worshiper, a former Satan worshiper, who was saying that Planned Parenthood, they would just pull the baby out.
Yeah, don't get too graphic. Don't get too graphic. Okay. We get it. We get it. It's horrible, but adrenochrome has also come up in a lot of these UFO conspiracies as well. I just got done editing this UFO kind of conspiracy movie, and it's just found that out.
Our alien, fallen angel spacecraft, which is angel spacecraft. That's
what they are. It is a crazy. So just to kind of wrap up the root of good and evil, or more or less evil, because good is good. I mean, evil seems to be more like it's more manufactured as opposed to good. Good, if you just don't do anything, you can be good. But evil seems to really kind of manipulate and craft and indoctrinate. And it's just so basically all these serial killers that we've been talking about, and also layering them through the Mayflower, everything beforehand that has happened that we just talked about kind of layers everything and kind of imprints on the DNA that passes on. And I mean, because evil just kind of, it never goes away, it seems like.
Right. Unless you accept Jesus.
Yeah.
But then you might end up like Cindy Schaefer. But
what I found was really interesting. I don't know if you remember, like in the 70s, there was a rash all these rash of devil movies that were coming out. There was so many of them. Exorcist, The Devil's Reign, Rosemary's Baby, which was like, that was the ultimate Faustian kind of movie. When the John Cassavetes basically gave up his wife to be, to spawn a devil baby so his career as an actor could take off. I mean, that movie to this day just freaks me out. I watched it like 15, 20 years ago during the day, and I had to go outside just so the sunlight would hit my face. So, I mean, it's amazing how you don't see that many, or you see a couple of them coming up around the bend there. But in the 70s, that stretch of the 70s, there was a lot of them. And that was a difficult time, those early 70s, and same what we're happening right now.
Right.
But, well, hopefully good triumphs over evil. That's all I hope. I think
does.
I mean, because, we're all still here.
Soon, for now.
Exactly. Right. All right, Cindy, this was crazy. There was a fascinating conversation. I mean, now my head is spinning. Now I got to look through my phone of all the things and trying to catch up on all this stuff. But thank you.
Sure.
All righty.